good afternoon to you. There we go. Edit audience, public, we're good. StreamYard, we're good. Haircut, we're good. Thank you, Tiz. That's right. Cut Masters. Cut Masters over in Selden, 890 Middle Country Road. Here we go. We got the commercial in. Boy, oh boy, what a weekend. It's Tuesday. You want to know something? I was so exhausted. I was so exhausted from this weekend because I got things to do at night, and I was out at the track from roughly 10 o'clock in the morning at the track. Track? What track? Oh, of course. Come on, folks. It's racetrack, not street. Supported by, that's the Pete Scalza team. And then also you've got the Long Island Needs a Drag Strip, folks. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. The amount of people that are out there helping to make this thing go, just great. I'll get into all the rest of that stuff because, yes, as I mentioned, Thursday, it's Talk to the Students Day. Thursday, we're chatting with the students. Man, that should be a whole lot of fun. Let's get over here. Just want to see if we can get the comments going, make it work that way. So, yeah. So you ready for this? Whatever, out Friday night, Saturday morning, 10 to roughly 3 o'clock. I was able to stay out at the track, did the announcing with Pete. Man, it was so much fun. Great stuff. Got a chance to read off the names, the cars, all the rest of that stuff. Been working through a few kinks. It's all good. Whatever, a little bit of rain, waiting for the track to dry. I'll slow down. Waiting for the track to dry. A couple of friends came out representing different papers, podcasts, stuff like that. Did a whole number of interviews. That was great. Can't wait to see that come together. Sunday was the same thing. Out at the track, 10 o'clock in the morning. No rain this time. No rain this time. Got a chance to, spend a little bit more time with the food trucks. Took some photos. One of these days, I'm going to get all that stuff posted up over here to make it work. This way you could see what they are. Wonderful, wonderful, absolute wonderful experience. I got invited. That's right. I got invited to be the passenger in one of the Jeeps. It was a Jeep. It was a white Jeep. It was driven by Anthony. He's like, "Hey, why don't you come with me?" And I'm thinking, "Hey, why don't I?" And there is a great debate. Do I get in the car or not? But it was absolutely great. So yesterday, man, I couldn't even remember what I spoke about doing this thing. I was just like so tired. Just such a day to go and do. Finally got a good night's sleep last night. So all revved up, ready to go and make it work. Now, got to remember, none of this happens without a whole team of people, a whole number of volunteers, about a whole number of folks with that same common interest. How do you build that team of people with the same common interest? How do you know who you can rely on? How do you know who's in your court? I'll use that word. How do you know? Doug King happens to be one of them. How do you know who you can rely on? And then there are different ways of doing that and the rest of it. And, we're talking different aspects of it. So we're not talking careers here. We're just talking like a project, with the racetrack. How do you know? Well, you got to figure out like why people are there, why they're doing what they're doing. I can tell you the sincerity, authenticity of those folks that were racing those cars, just absolutely great. They were out there because they wanted to have a good time racing the car in a nice, safe place. It was great. Not a soul seemed to complain about anything. What did come out was little areas of improvement, all good. One of the ones that I thought was most interesting was from the spectator standpoint. It's like, how good was that? If the spectator stand was moved a little bit further down the track, they would have a better view of the entire race. Now, where the spectator stand was set up was right at the starting area, but the suggestion was to move it down a little bit further, a little bit more mid-track. It's an eighth of a mile drag strip. And I'm like, that's actually something that makes good sense. This way you can see the start, see the finish, the whole way through. And I can tell you, you get a good camera, you can take photos of the whole thing the whole way through. You might be seeing that come up, not by me, but some others that took some photos. Definitely cool photos and videos, and that'll come to be. Just started watching some of these things, just absolutely terrific, really good. So that was one of those suggestions. Obviously, I took a look back at what I was doing with the announcing, the rest of it. Few things I certainly want to continue to improve upon, and will continue to do that. And I'm glad last year I went down there for the first time, to do the announcing. I had like no idea. No, I had no idea what to expect or anything like that. Everything was new. Everything was new. So I was just curious about everything. This year was kind of looking at it a little bit differently, got some idea, but every day I show up over there, it's just some new and different aspect of it, different ways to kind of work through whatever those obstacles are. Remember, we advance through those obstacles. We don't get stuck by them. And then figure it out. Figure it out. And I've had some wonderful conversations along the way. Absolutely wonderful conversations. But there's that question that came up. What is it really like to drive a car? Now, the reference I've given you in the past is driving that 1974 four-cylinder Capri around that fifth of a mile Freeport Motor Speedway. I never knew things from a driver's standpoint until I did that driver. There was one lap around. I raced for a whopping quarter of a mile on that one. But still, it was a different experience than sitting in the stands watching what was going on. Same thing with this. I've never gotten behind the wheel of a car to go down a drag strip. And not a race car, not a dragster car. We're just talking a car. Because it really doesn't make a difference what you are driving as you go down this thing. You're really, racing against yourself. See about the reaction time, elapsed time. I bring my street car. I don't. Elapsed time means nothing. If it's under 30 seconds, I'm happy, and I don't hit the wall or anything like that. But it's the reaction time. That would be something. Wait over there, the adrenaline of the whole thing. I think that would be kind of cool. but but it would be a different experience. Now, I was thinking, bring the camera, and there was a number of passengers, by the way. And if you're watching this and you're one of those passengers, or you see some of those videos, because the passengers were sitting there, they had the camera going on the whole thing. I'd love to get a shot of that. Love to be able to play that on here. Number of folks with the cameras on the outside, but the camera on the inside. Number of people, too, with the cameras on the cars. It was the father-son racing against each other with the cameras on the cars. And I was wondering if they both go down the track together. This way we could take video of each other going down the track together. Coordinated, probably. Does the adrenaline get in the way? Does the thrill of victory get in the way of that one? Might have. I don't think the two of them are looking to see who is side by side. I think the two of them are trying to get down that track the quickest to beat the other person and doing that whole thing. But, and let's talk about that, Karen. What? There you go. Now you're famous. What would it really be like to be behind the wheel of one of those cars, or to just be a passenger? I use that word again, to be a passenger in one of those cars. I tend to think it'd be incredibly exciting. And I would love to be a passenger in one of those cars. I think that would be a thrill and a half. Really get a chance to experience the whole thing. As I put up in the post the other day, last night, actually, I chatted with my father. He's out in California. I chatted with my father about this whole thing. We wanted to see the videos of the races, what he's doing, the announcing side of things, the rest of it. And I told him, I said, this opportunity came up to perhaps get into one of the cars as a passenger. And he started telling me, which I knew he was going to do anyhow, he's going to do the same thing. Out at Fontana Speedway, he's expected to do this. Added Fontana Speedway, get into one of those race cars as a passenger. So it's a larger speedway. I didn't look to see what the overall, I'm going to say it was maybe a mile track. Not a perfect oval, but something like that, whatever it is. But it's a mile track, speedway size stuff. And, top speeds, well in excess 200 miles an hour. The cars could go in the whole thing. Don't expect them to drive that. But he did say he wanted to be a passenger in that whole thing. So he's telling me that. Yeah, I tend to think he'd be supportive of this. Yeah, I definitely do. And it could be a thrill. It would be a thrill. And it would be a different perspective. And that's really the whole point of everything. It would be a different perspective. And that's how we learn. We absolutely learn a lot by doing, not just by talking about it, as I sit here talking about it. So that's one of the reasons why I'd love to do it. Yes, the thrill of the whole thing, but just to see what that experience is like, waiting for your turn, getting into that pre-stage area, doing the burnout, and then getting up to the Christmas tree, sitting up there with the lights, making sure you stage properly, waiting for the white lights to come on. The white lights signify that both cars are lined up properly. And then it goes yellow, 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 green, and go. And you got to go a lot quicker than I just said that. And that's where the reaction time is. What was really fascinating yesterday, Sunday, is that one of the junior dragster drivers, I think this gentleman was 11 years old, and he came in with, I think, was the fastest reaction time of the day. It was 0.005, 5 thousandths of a second was the amount of time it took for the light to go green and him to get going. Fascinating stuff. Fascinating stuff. But all of this stuff doesn't just happen. None of it happens. The idea of a racetrack, about that, quite a few, until you found somebody that would be supportive of it. And that's this whole idea of networking. It's the whole idea of networking. We look as business owners, what do? We look at networking, a way to get referrals to increase the business. You join all of these business groups, number of them. They meet on a weekly basis, monthly basis, and either for lunch, for breakfast, whatever it is. It's always, you're trying to get business. And I could tell you, those that do it wrong are the ones that are there trying to sell their product to the folks that are there. That's not networking. That's not trying to build a referral business. That's just being a salesperson. That's not it. Truly being effective when it comes to networking, when it comes to promoting your business, whatever it might be, really has to do with giving people something for them to talk about you. Really painting that picture in 30 seconds or less. Some folks have said you got 6 seconds or less to catch somebody's attention. You could drive down an eighth of a mile track in 6 seconds. Just say it. Not with my car. Some of those cars, yeah, absolutely. But you do need to speak with them when you give them that elevator pitch, when you're then talking about it. You do need to give them something that they could see, something that's visual that they could see. And then they would be able to say, yeah, you should speak to Bob, Mary, Joe, because they help people develop a business. They clarify a marketing plan. They do their thing, but they do it in a way that's different because they sit across the table from you. Enjoy a couple of cups of coffee and really get a chance to know you, not just tell you, but to speak with you. You're painting a picture there, especially, right? I mentioned you're sitting across the table, someone having a cup of coffee. You could see that. They guide you through a marketing plan. I don't know. What came to my mind was the marketing plan I have. Sometimes it's a little all over the place. Get a little bit of assistance doing that. It's great. And that's really what it is when it comes to painting that picture. So the idea with the drag strip, it's the same thing. The idea with the drag strip, these folks that had gotten started with it, the Long Island Needs a Drag Strip and Racetrack Nut Street, been working on this thing for years, 10 years. I think the supervisor said, she had started working on this thing 10 years to get an opportunity to build some sort of a drag strip out in the Riverhead area. So how she build up the idea of doing it? To build up the idea, somebody came to her, somebody said, if there was a drag strip in Riverhead, it would help boost the economy. It'd be great family entertainment. It'd be just a lot of fun to go and do, and it would give the opportunity for many of our Long Islanders to enjoy time on Long Island and not have to travel off of Long Island, going over the bridges in a trailer. Now, I don't know exactly what that speech was when somebody approached the supervisor years ago, but I do know that any of the team of the Long Island Needs a Drag Strip folks that are stating it like that, people will latch on to that portion of that little presentation that means something to them. Now, if you're in the tourism business, you're operating a restaurant in and around Riverhead. It doesn't even have to be in Riverhead. We drove out there, definitely passed through the town of Brookhaven, To get out there was a whole number of places that I passed. But if you have a restaurant and you find out that there's drag racing and there's people attending, that's good for the economy, is it not? Maybe that's your point of view. Maybe you operate one of the amusement parks that are in and around the area. Splish Splash, right down the road, right down the road, right down the road from the park. Even the other racetrack, Riverhead Raceway, promoting drag racing or promoting racing on the island. Talk about the vocational aspect of it. And you start talking about the vocational aspect of it, that's going to catch the attention of a few other people. I've had some amazing conversations with people in the school system. It's like, I didn't think of it that way. Restaurants owners, same thing. I didn't think of the fact that, it's racing, it's at the track, There are food trucks at the track. What's that going to do for my restaurant? They're all eating there. See, yeah, that's true. They're all eating lunch over there. Maybe they're eating breakfast. Maybe on the nighttime races, they're having dinner over there. But at some point in time, those other restaurants are going to benefit from the breakfast, lunch, dinner crowds that are not at the track. And the families that are attending this thing that are going to go someplace to sit down for dinner, not to sit in the spectator stands eating the food, which is all great stuff, by the way. I'm starting to work my way through it. Hopefully by the end of the October, when the races all finish up, we'll have a chance to visit each of the food trucks. But that's an aside. And the tourism side, the overall tourism side. Many of these folks, but as I mentioned, many of the drivers here on Long Island, they're racing their cars other places because we didn't have a drag strip. Now, all of a sudden, there is a drag strip. 8th Mile drag strip, right in Calverton. Do you know how many of these folks that brought their cars out there were thrilled with the fact that they were able to start in their home and then be able to go home at night? They brought the whole entire family out there. That was great. But maybe not 2 years ago. 2 years ago, they were out here too. But 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 years. For 17 years, they've been taking those cars, putting them on the trailers, driving through over the bridges, and visiting our neighboring states to go to racetracks in our neighboring states. They would leave real early in the morning, maybe even at night, the night before, but really early in the morning, pack everybody up, and then go spend the weekend out someplace else. Now, they don't have to do that now. But what about all those other racers that are in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Connecticut? Now, they, in turn, might find it really exciting from a tourism standpoint to be coming back this way, to spend the weekend in and around the Riverhead, Hampton area, race the cars on Saturday or Sunday, or maybe Saturday and Sunday, and enjoy some of the other attractions that we have around here. Maybe they spend a little bit more time, stay for, Monday, Tuesday, go out to the beaches. So there's a big aspect of this whole thing. So when you're having that conversation, when anybody is having a conversation, people see things from their own perspective. That's important. So it's not just doing business with that person. It's important to build up that network. And that, my friends, is networking. So Thursday morning, I'll be speaking to the students at one of the high schools about networking. What really is networking? Now, if you're a high school student, I mean, think about this one, right? High school student, I'm going to go to, oh, yeah, you should network in order to grow your business. They don't have a business. Well, I'd probably be wrong on that statement, because did another presentation at another school, and this one guy came up and he's got his own clothing company. High school kid, high school young adult. Let's be clear about this. He's got his own clothing company. It's all online. The clothes are obviously manufactured by somebody else, but the designs that are imprinted on it are not. Heck, I know a few friends of mine that use shirts, T-shirts, sweatshirts, whatever. Even the Long Island Needs a Drag Strip people, right? They have the sweatshirts, T-shirts, etc. They're not making this stuff. They have somebody else make it. They're customized for them. They sell it. That's a clothing line. And, they wound up, using that to, help to financially support some of the effort over here. Because, money is spent putting this whole thing together. I have a business. In this case, the Long Island Needs a Drag Strip, well, that's a nonprofit effort. For that young gentleman, maybe that's a for-profit effort. So when I'm speaking to the students, networking could be business, but for the most part, maybe it's not. And here's the idea that I want to share with them. And this goes back to what I learned at a prior thing, right? We always learn from those experiences. And that in and of itself is kind of a way of networking as it goes. And I can tell you, me getting the opportunity to speak to these students was because I met with a group of people that do these career days. And I was like, well, I did that once before. I did it a long time ago. And I've done it, ever since. It's like, oh, I so enjoyed speaking to the students, getting them a chance to think about who they are, where they want to go, who they really are internally, and what really gets them excited. And I think that the earlier they figure that out, the more successful they're going to be in their careers, because they got a head start on the whole thing. As opposed to waiting until you're 20, 30, graduate from college, you got loans, and you're like, I really don't want to do that. Oh, now what do? You're 30 years old, you've got student loans, and now you're trying to figure out what career you want to go in? That's a challenge. That could be a real frustrating challenge. I mean, sometimes you turn 60, about to turn 61, and you're like, all right, I've been doing a career, forever, and I want more. Well, with these students, if they could see what it is that they really want at an early age, something else. Take a look at some of our more successful golfers, those in athletics. We've been hearing a lot about the athletics with different groups of people. Started to do those programs at what age? 4, 6, 8. And then they turn pro. By the time they turn pro, they got 10 years of experience in there. That's a lot. When I spoke to the fourth grade students, I wasn't really sure what to talk to them about. But then I started asking them what it is that they do. And that was so good. I mean, it took me a few classes to get through to go figure out how to get a conversation started. But I figured, all right, audience interaction. It's not about me. It's about them. Let's find out about them. What do you do? And these students continue to tell me where they volunteer their time. And I'm thinking, every one of these things could possibly be a career. So that really, and I really thank that fourth grade class. I learned so much by listening to them, because that now really is the basis for so much I do speak about at these career days. And that is, what do you do in your free time? What are you really doing in your free time? When nobody is telling you what to do, when nobody is saying, oh, this would be a good idea, when nobody's saying, oh, you got to get dressed, we're going to. But when you got a free Saturday, free Sunday, nothing happening. And you just do something. Even going online. Where do you go? Games? Play games? Okay. Good, bad, or indifferent. But if you are one of those people that are really into the gaming, the online gaming, and you could see the mistakes that are made in some of these games, you got a career in front of you, because you could see stuff that most other people can't. Some of those students that I spoke to that day, one of them volunteers in a church, and she does the clothes. She mends some of the clothing that's there, and then it's all donated. But she had mentioned to me, actually, she mentioned to me the whole entire class, that she really likes clothing, and she likes the dresses, and she likes doing that whole thing. And she would like to become a dressmaker, a costume designer. It's like, wow, I didn't actually even prompt that question. She did. She came up with that response. Another gentleman, this guy was so cool. Another guy. It's like, I want to be a football player. It's like, okay, that's good. But if that doesn't work out, this kid's in fourth grade. He's got a fallback plan already, but it wasn't far. It was not far because he felt if he couldn't play football, he knew he wanted to be involved in football. He wanted to be an announcer. There's another kid I ran across, different school, different things, slightly older, but not much. I think it was eighth grade, ninth grade, something like that. He had told me he wanted to go into radio. He wanted to be an announcer. My suggestion to him is go down there, speak to the guidance counselor, speak to anybody, that's running the school, principal, vice principal, whatever. But speak to the person that's doing those morning announcements. Volunteer. Get in front of that microphone. Speak to the theater program. Speak to the band. Speak to anybody that's using the stage in the auditorium about anything. And volunteer. Not volunteer to give a presentation, but volunteer to be the person to say, please turn off your phones. Please go to the bathroom now. We're going to start in a couple of minutes. Anything like that. He's learning different things. Speaking just to a microphone with no audience to make those morning announcements is one thing. Speaking to an audience by standing on a podium, at a lectern, on stage, in front of 1, 2, 3, 4, 500 people. That's a whole nother thing. Imagine doing that. You're 12 years old, 13, 14 years old. If he continued on doing that, by the time he gets to college and he walks in and says, hey, I'd like to announce the football games, the baseball games, swimming, whatever it is, whatever the interest is. And they're like, I don't know. Do you have any experience? Yes. Starting in 8th grade, I was always using the microphone, making announcements, doing things like that. Fascinating. So I want these students, and here's what I'm going to tell them to do, is to get clear on what it is that they like, what they really are truly passionate about. And I got a ton more stories to go, but if I look over here, I realize I only got about 2.5 more minutes to go on this one. But when I speak to those students, and if they could figure out what it is that they love to do, forget about the business, forget about all the rest of it. What do you love to do? People have started all kinds of careers out of things that they love to do. I mean, who would have thought that people can make thousands of dollars a month by being on TikTok and just doing that stuff, by getting followers and getting sponsors? Who knew? But you could do it. Not only that, these social media influencers, you go talk to restaurants in and around that Carrollton area and start posting about the restaurants, going to restaurants, whatever, good for the race fans, promote it out that way. You want to know something? There's a career there. Social media is huge. Advertising, where do you advertise? I don't know. It's so confusing. It's not that it's so confusing. It's just there's so many places. Where are people? Where are your audience? So if you're really good at that, because you just love the idea of the microphone, the camera, and the rest of that, and you understand SEO as you continue to go through school, and that's what you talk about, and you're like, oh, I want to be a social media influencer, and you're in 8th, 9th, 10th grade, and you continue to post videos, by the time you get to college, or you apply for your first job and say, hey, this is what I'd like to do. I'd like to be in the marketing department. Well, that's great, but what experience do you have? Well, I haven't worked any place, but I have been doing this for the school. I promote our automotive program that races a car out of Calverton. Hey, just wanted to throw that in because that car gets a lot of in-kind contributions, right? Schools don't have unlimited budgets for this. That's important. And not only is that important, that's a success story to tell as you go and further your career in marketing. You now have a resume that you're building, that those students are building throughout the years by doing what? By doing what they love to do. That, my friends, can be incredible. Absolutely incredible. I'm going to end right at 30 seconds. Speak well, speak often, live inspired. Follow along. A lot more to come. Thanks, Mike. We'll end on that note. Tomato talk time.